Josh Kitchens is currently the Director of Archival Services and Digital Initiatives for GPLS. He served as the Director of Archives and Information Studies program at Clayton State University. And before working at Clayton State, Josh was an archivist for special collections at the Georgia College Ina Dillard Russell Library. Lauren is the local archivist at the Georgia Public Library Service, providing support for various archival collections in the state. She's previously worked for the Archdiocese of Atlanta and the Archdiocese of New Orleans. Lauren holds a BA in History, an MA in Public History, a graduate certificate in Historical Preservation, and a graduate certificate in Records and Information Management. She's also a certified archivist and a certified records analyst, and I realize I have not done anything with my life. Please help me in welcoming Josh and Lauren to the final session of the conference.
So we wanted to start out and show you some insight into some of the new things we've been working on with GPLS, specifically public libraries. And one of the things we're going to emphasize are finding aids, and we'll kind of explain what finding aid is for the collections we have in our public libraries. You've already been introduced to both myself and Lauren, so if you want to take a look at that in a little while, you can. But we really wanted to explain kind of what we've been doing. So I do want to give, and we're kind of like obligated to give an insight into what GPLS does for our public libraries in the state of Georgia. We want to talk a little bit about what do we mean by special collections, and we kind of have this, our own definition of what special collections is that works for us in the state of Georgia, and then kind of talk about finding aids and some other resources we have to help you find the family history, local history collections in the public libraries in the state. So just a quick note, Georgia Public Library Service, or as we like to call it, GPLS, we are the state library agency. And what we strive to do is help all of our public libraries in the state basically do the best they can with whatever resources we have available. A lot of what we provide are, economies of scale in terms of software, expertise, and other kind of resources. So a lot of things like you see, purchasing of books, if you've ever engaged with the Palace Project at your library. If you haven't, you really should. It sometimes has things that are less on hold than Libby, and so you can get access a little bit faster. That's something that's been worked on at the state level. Galileo resources, as well as Pines, is all stuff that's handled by GPLS. And in our department, we kind of handle helping at that sort of higher level and with scale and with resources that maybe some of our libraries can't provide to their patrons, kind of through GPLS. So quick note, if you've not taken a look at how many libraries we have in the state, we have 408 libraries. So we have a lot of libraries throughout the state. There are 60 library systems, about to be 61 in January. But I think the biggest thing to take in is that there are over 5 million library card users in the state, as well as people visit our libraries both virtually and in person over nearly 50 million times just in last year. And so this is January to January of last year. But we need to talk a little bit about what we do. So we have a really big name. We collectively usually call it ASDI, but at Archival Services and Digital Initiatives, our kind of goal is to really focus on what we define as special collections, which I'll kind of explain later. We help with digitization. So that's one of our primary kind of roles, where we're looking at both not just, physical items that library have and helping them digitize that, but also thinking about community collections, community resources, defining what that is, helping the libraries think through how they can do some digital projects. We provide a lot of support for those digitization projects. Sometimes that's us either doing the funding, sometimes that's us explaining how to do the digitization project and empowering the local libraries to do their own digitization work. Sometimes it's just making connections between local groups and other groups to try to get those digitization projects off the ground. One of the ways we do that is we have, I guess I could call it a fleet of what we call DigiKits, and these are basically scanners that we can ship around the state to allow the libraries to do their own digitization work. We've got 5 scanners floating around the state right now. Most of them are out and being used. Actually, it's 6. Excuse me. Let me add that in correctly. Floating around the state, doing different projects. For instance, one's at Fulton County Library right now. They're doing a kind of a community scan day project with it on October 20th. We also help manage and support the different collections. Specifically, you mind if I turn it over to you to talk a little bit about what we do for support for special collections?
Sure. So I guess I need to talk into the microphone. Okay, so
You just project.
oh, okay, cool. As we mentioned, we'll kind of define more of what we mean by special collections in just a second, but it's a broad variety of things, as I'm sure a lot of you are fully aware of. So we help with collection management in general, and that can mean on-site visits, just helping libraries figure out what they have, what they need to do with it, if they want to do anything with it. It can be preservation support, providing boxes, folders, digitization with that as a little bit as well. Archival processing, so physically processing the items and collections that they have. Again, either on site or I have a space on the third floor up here that I can bring things to and process. If that's not something that the library staff has the bandwidth to handle, which is kind of why my position exists. And then, as Josh mentioned, some funding assistance with grant support, either helping them find grants that exist, helping them do the applications for that. Yeah, I think that's covers up. Yeah.
And there are, and speaking of grants, there's a number of grants out there. Well, we have to kind of acknowledge federal grants for preservation and digitization work are not as existent as they have been in the past. There's still a lot of options locally. Specifically, there's the Georgia Historical Records Advisory Committee, GRAC, that gives out awards for preservation each year. There's also the Digital Library of Georgia has a sub-grant program which helps with digitization projects. So here's just a couple of examples. Actually, we have 3 libraries this year that have DLG grants that were just awarded in the last couple of weeks. So we've got some really great projects coming on soon. Other things we try to do is try to support our libraries thinking about what they might want to do with community history. We've been sort of recently have kind of come up with the mantras like all collections don't have to be physical. Like we can start thinking about like, hey, maybe your library cannot host a special collections room or space in the library, but we can talk about building a special collections digitally for your community. And we can kind of come up with some different things. A lot of what, I like to talk about are oral history projects if someone wants to do that. But we also know that our genealogy programs around the state get a lot of interest depending upon the community. And so we want to support understanding what the best practices are for those kind of workshops, talking about local history programs. And even it might not be local history directly related to the library. It could be a local history in sort of broader sense from like a region. And then I kind of like to throw ideas out there. Yesterday, we were talking to libraries. And one thing that I've, as an archivist, that has been really fruitful in terms of programming has actually been working with individuals with historical records and letting them do art inspired by historical records. And that actually has been some of the most successful programs I've ever had. And I'm not an artist, but somehow or another, I have been pulled into doing art and art-based projects with a lot of different constituencies. So just as an example, the sky's essentially the limit. And then last but certainly not least, we provide continuing education for all of our public library staff around the state, whether it be talking about genealogy and providing scholarships to go to the Institute for Historical Research. It's like I always forget that acronym, or the Georgia Archives Institute, but we also host regular workshops for our public librarians to kind of just talk about different topics related to archive special collections as well. So we keep hinting that we're going to talk about special collections in library, and I feel like this is a super big list of things. Traditionally, if we were in a library, they would have a term for what a real special collections is. But we found out in our public libraries, they kind of fall into about 5 categories. First and foremost, they're genealogical collections. And so those genealogical collections seem to be books, oftentimes are limited printed books or rare books related to genealogy and family history. There's also family files. So these could be collected by the library themselves, collected by a community organization, and just sort of been kind of aggregated together over a span of time. And then also sort of explicit genealogy collections. Usually these are from individuals, they may be from groups, but they tend to have a lot of different information in it related to whatever that community is, or could be kind of far-reaching. We've seen some collections that are broader than just a one county or one city kind of collection. Then we have kind of, this is for the archivists out there, the sort of traditional archival collections. And I know that comes with a lot of baggage when we say that word archival. But really what we're talking about here are things like business records. So these could be community business records, records from banks, from other individuals, from just businesses that have existed in a community. We also see government records, oftentimes in our public library. So these are typically county records, but sometimes they're a little more different. They could actually also be Land records, which I know are county records, but that kind of falls into a sort of a different category. Family papers are often seen a lot. So these might be mixed with genealogy records, but oftentimes are like community correspondence, other kinds of things like that. An example of kind of a family paper collection we recently did was a scrapbook from Elbert County. I'm calling that family papers because all of the scrapbook materials are all postcards, and they were all postcards that were sent around the community and in among family members. So sort of a family collection. And then photography collections or photograph collections. So you see a lot of those in our libraries too. Then there comes the sort of other stuff. Objects in art. Every library seems to have various objects in art, whether they wanted them or not. One library, the Brunswick Library, has a dollhouse that is a part of its collection. That they have right front and center because that's the best place for it. Other things we see are vertical files. These might have been collected by the library or community member. Usually these are topical and based off of community events, community history, things in the community, buildings, businesses, individuals, names, things like that. They do kind of straddle the line of those family files that might have familial names in it too. And then last but certainly not least is just everything else. Could be posters, could be brochures, could be you name it, they might have it. So collectively, this is what we sort of think of as the special collections in the public libraries around Georgia. So here's a couple of examples. Some fun stuff. Actually, this one on the left over here is from a scrapbook that's currently being digitized from Dougherty County. It was a World War II period training facility for British pilots pre the American involvement in World War II. So it's a really great collection. Every image is fully identified, so we know the names of every person in every single photo. So we're really excited about that coming online. And was that Schweitzer right there at the top right? Yeah, Schweitzer Library in Cobb County. And then I'm not sure where the other two were at.
The one here with the object on it, again, random objects that the provenance of which is usually generally completely unknown. That's Gainesville. I don't remember where the other one is from, to be completely honest with you, but it's
Oconee?
maybe, yes, it might be Oconee, yeah.
Might be Oconee, so Dublin area.
Yeah, lots of scrapbooks, binders.
Oh, that could be anybody.
That's what I mean, yeah, we run into those a lot.
So one of the issues that we've kind of established in our work around the state and travels to different libraries, communications with libraries and library directors, is that both the staff there and then the community itself, and when we say community at large, state, national, worldwide, have trouble finding the materials that are in these libraries. So I don't like to use the word hidden collections because hidden implies that somebody is intentionally hiding them. It really just means they're practically obscured. There's no way to easily access these collections. And so when we say this, is like one of the things we want to acknowledge is that our librarians need training to help them work with these collections, but we also acknowledge that they have a lot of competing things they're trying to do. If you see how much work and how much programs go on in a public library, we're asking them to do a lot of stuff. So we still want to make them help them understand how to work with these collections, but we also acknowledge that we might need to come in and do some effort from a state level to really maximize the ability to be used these collections. Other things too is like tools and software to make the collections accessible, researchable, findable, discoverable. And then of course, storage and preservation services as well, like the equipment, the boxes, the folders, all of the kind of stuff that's needed. And then the other things too is this idea that many libraries have collections. Some of them have inventories for these collections, but oftentimes those inventories are only available on site. So some of them may have a link on their website, some may not. Typically, it's just a paper printout of an Excel document and a binder that might be in their special collections room. And then, of course, we oftentimes don't know, as Lauren kind of hinted at earlier, we don't know the provenance or the donation information. So we're trying to kind of solve a lot of problems all at the same time, at least gradually, to help make just the collections more understandable, more discoverable. And so how do we solve these problems? Well, of course, we're doing training. That's why we have scholarships out there. That's why we do workshops. We've done some previous things where we've done learning cohorts, trying to put a lot of tools in the hands of librarians so that they can do some of this work on their own. And other things too we're thinking about in the future is trying to empower them to work with volunteers or to have volunteers work with us so we can kind of maximize as much effort as we possibly can. Tools that we've provided, so we provide from the state level, so we're paying for it from GPLS, are a tool called Archive Space, which is a tool for documenting archival collections. We say it's the tool for everything that doesn't fit well in Pines when we're talking to our library directors, because oftentimes special collections just are not something that is really easy to do a catalog entry in a traditional book catalog or a traditional catalog that we have now. So we say we can put as much of the stuff as we can in Archive Space, even if some of it is not perfect, like items and objects that don't always work so great in Archive Space. We've also provided digital exhibit platforms. So if they want to take their materials and kind of create narratives and stories around them, present them to their communities, we provide Omeka, which is a tool that's really great for doing online exhibits and digital collecting. But I think more importantly, we have tried to do some of the lifting at the state level to help them, specifically with our local archivist, Lauren, going on site or either bringing materials here to actually do the processing, do the inventorying. A lot of the work we've been doing in the last year or so has been taking previously done inventories and finding aids and moving them over to the software so they're more discoverable. And then just consulting constantly. I always tell everybody, call me if you have a question, don't hesitate. I had a mold question last week that I had to deal with, which was really fun. And I was worried I was going to have to drive. And I was like, I need to go buy a ventilator because I don't do well with mold. And then the other thing that we also think is really important is compiling as much of this data that we find and making it discoverable so people will know that these collections exist. So to that end, let's talk about finding aids.
So according to the Society of American Archivists official definition, a finding aid is most broadly a description that typically consists of the contextual, structural information about an archival resource. It can look however an institution needs or wants it to look. As Josh mentioned, it can be a piece of paper, it can be an Excel sheet, something that the people that need to find these collections and understand their contextual information can use. Most often they have information about the acquisition of the collection. We're finding that a lot of public library things do not by anyone's fault. It's just that things have been in a collection for a number of years and a number of directors and staff members have gone through and that information hasn't been shared, which is why the finding aids are important. They can hold processing information. You can put the status of the level of processing that's been done on that collection, if any. You can note any preservation needs that that collection may have. You can detail the administrative history and the biographical note, again, the provenance of where that collection came from, how it came to be in this particular collection. The size of the collection, if it's one sheet of paper, 10 boxes. And then the various subjects that the collection covers, that again can be as broad as that particular institution wants it to be. And then they cover the types of media that are found within that collection. Again, we have some that are a mix of paper and art and photographs and all kinds of fun stuff. And then the finding aid mainly is most helpful as an inventory of the collection for researchers to then be able to say, I would like to see this part of this collection because it is relevant to this thing that I'm interested in. And again, it can be as detailed or not, depending on the time that people have to put into making it. So you'll see some that are just a collection level finding aid with very minimal description, or things that go down to each item in each folder. It just kind of depends on what works. Again, it's customizable and it's one of the most important things for researchers. And so our goal was to have one place for researchers to locate information about these public library special collections, which led to finding aids at Georgia Public Libraries. It's our archive space instance, but that's what we have titled it. And it's fully searchable. It's a centralized database that I have in the slide. I don't remember, but there are currently 501 finding aids that have been entered with 17 different libraries. So with the 408 libraries, we still have a few to go. And we do know not all of them have special collections, and a lot of them may not know that they have special collections. We've gone on site visits before, and people don't think that they have something that's worth being a special collection, and they do. And so, yeah, again, ArchiveSpace provides a method for managing collections. Again, you can note the preservation needs. It also documents, like we said, kind of the items that exist. And in particular, it helps manage the donation information, which is key because that kind of determines how a collection can continue to be used throughout its life cycle. And when it, I don't want to put too much into that. All right, so we're gonna go to this page. Oh, that worked seamlessly. So this is what the front of the website looks like. If you know exactly what kind of collection you're looking for, you can type that here. You can look by record type. Again, digital materials is not going to be nearly as intense. Search fields are minimal compared to the things that we can put into the finding aids on the back end, but this will make it a lot easier for researchers to use. And then if you know the time frame that you're looking for, you can search that way. I personally like the repository page because each library that we have a collection from is listed here, alphabetical order. And these are, at the moment, in here by branch, and they have the parent institution, which is their library system, listed. So far, we've only had one instance of 2 from the same system have a repository. So we'll figure that out as we go. But let's see. Find one to just click through. Athens is probably the most
they probably
detailed.
The most detailed. And I should mention for Albert Avenue and Athens Regional, they have their own instance of ArchiveSpace themselves, but we harvest it so we have a central place to search everything all at once.
Yeah.
So we just update their data a couple of times a year to add in.
Yeah.
May I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
If it says number of collections 0, like the labs,
Yeah.
is that nothing here, but they might have something?
We have something that needs to be put in, probably, is what that means.
It also means they might have some that haven't been published yet
Yes,
on the
yeah.
back end. And they were working on stuff, and then I think they got busy doing some other things. So
And when you search, can you search by surname or?
Yeah, can you go back to the last page a minute, to the finding aid page?
sure.
And what are you going to search by? Is that going to be like location?
So just like you would in a library catalog, you can search by that. One of the things that we've kind of talked to with our librarians is really putting in good local subject headings, especially around names. And so whether that be surnames or other names, but we really kind of rely on the local libraries to start focusing on that. You know, we're still kind of infant stages on the data. This is why I keep talking about bringing volunteers in to maybe make some of the collections a little more robust, especially on a surname kind of basis. But if there's good names in the subject headings, we can add the subject headings in and people can search by name. And I think we have a hand up.
How did you get to the finding aid page from the home page for the GPLS?
We will show you that in just a few minutes.
Because I know you have the URL, but
We have an easy URL to remember. for
Yes,
that.
we do.
Just a quick question. Do you have to have a subscription to Galileo?
No, they just, they're our host.
No, you're good. Yeah.
We pay them, so.
Yeah. So yeah, if we'll just move through a little more, but the subjects, these are all the ones that have been entered so far. There are 50 plus pages of them, so they're robust, which is good.
But also we have the names, section 2. So those are basically subject heading to put in. These are also people names, business names, and can be family names.
Scroll down a little so y'all can see those.
And I should say organizational names too.
Yeah.
So it's,
And some of these, like if I've put in a finding aid, a lot of times the subjects are not on the finding aid that I received. So I'm having to go through and pick out what subjects I think are relevant to that. We are leaving it open for librarians to then contact me and say, fix this, change that, make it look like this, which is great. I love that. I'm more than happy to add things. For the most recent additions that I have, so the Augusta Richmond Public Library. So when you click on our repository page, this is what you'll see. Again, it has the system that they belong to, a link out to their particular website. So they may have the finding aids there as well. They may not. Again, just depends their location and then who you would email if you want to look at any of these. And then if you click on collections, I just entered all 194 of these, finished about a month ago. And as you can already see, there's some with prints mixed into other things. There are binders in here, all kinds of fun stuff. And then like this one is a single item, but it's still its own collection. And so you can see here, it's one item, one folder. And they were amazing and they put related collections. And so most of these are other collections within their repository that you can pull if you're interested in that subject. If you want to just see all of the collections that exist, which I feel like would be overwhelming, but if that works better for you, go for it. Again, alphabetical order. As you can see, the digital materials, a lot of these are Athens because I don't think we've put any in yet.
We have a lot of digitized materials available in the Digital Library of Georgia, and we are going to try to cross-post them, but that is going to be a long process to get everything cross-posted over there.
Yeah. So while I have this page up, is there anything else that you would like me to go into further?
If you do see something that you want to look at a library, how would you go about that?
So like if you, let's just say, this pictorial history. The repository details at the bottom, that email, I think all of them that we've put in have provided an email that they want researchers to use to contact them. And see, this one's even more robust. They have 3 related collections to this one thing. So
That's nice.
right, I know. I wish they all did that. Anything else on this? I'll have that. Okay. Go back here. This is just a general overview of everything that we've digitized so far, as in putting it into archive space, correct? Or is this Digital Library of Georgia? I'm sorry. So there are 128 collections with 1,165 newspaper titles and then 107,000 items. And is that the correct number issue newspapers or is that from, okay.
That's the correct, it's
It'll be-
as of the last time I did the math.
Okay. We're almost to 500.
Yeah.
And part of what I'm doing as well with some collections, depending on the size of them, is digitizing and creating metadata for them to be put into the Digital Library of Georgia as well. While I'm processing them, I have them, might as well do it.
Yep. So let me talk a little bit about where you go to find out some more information, both find our finding aid site as well as something we're going to show you in just a minute that shows you where the special collections are located around the state. If you're on the main Georgia Library page, if you go to georgialibraries.org, you see library visitors. And then you will see down below that it says Explore Family and Local History. You will see what we kind of collectively call the /history page. So Georgia Library /history is the page that will show you how to get direct access to the finding aids, as well as something else we're going to show you in just a second. And so here you can see, you can take a look at what the history page looks like, but we can actually go through and explore it a little bit.
Yeah.
So some of it is just giving you many resources you probably already know, but just familiarizing, especially for people who are new to doing family and local history in the library. We've got different ways to explore, preserve, and find your family history. And then we can also have ways to explore the library collections themselves. And so that's actually a link. It'll jump down the page a little bit for you, as well as some online tools that probably many of you are related to. So here at the Explore, you can see our finding aids at Georgia Public Libraries. There's your direct link right there to that.
Do you want to click on it?
Sure, if you want to, it's just going to open the page again.
So it just goes back there.
Yeah, and then even more important, well, not more importantly, but equally as important, I spent a lot of time on this.
Yes, yeah.
This is our kind of like Georgia Treasures dashboard is what we kind of call all the special collections locations in the state, where you can view, see where they're at, see where they're located at, and get an understanding of them. So the first sort of tab is just sort of gives you an overview Technically, this is 80 collections because I have one that somebody told me about the other day that wasn't in some of the old reporting and some of the data we had. So there are 80 collections. Talk about memory labs in just a minute. There are really actually more like 15 memory labs because we just finished up a survey to get that data pulled together. But more importantly, let's click over to the genealogy and local history collection. Here's where you can actually review, slightly search. The search is not fully functional because it really just is searching through the descriptions, but actually see the different libraries that have collections. While it is kind of organized by library system, actually, if you go up to like, let's click Exalia and click on the little button kind of to the next to it. You'll see that if you know your library system, you can see what counties are there and who has materials. And so here we're looking at all the Azalea regional ones. So you can see that's Hancock, Jasper, Morgan, Putnam, and Walton counties, at least the ones that have special collections. Many of these are entitled like Georgia Room, Heritage Room, something along that line. But you have all the information, sometimes an image from their digitized collections. If they don't have a digitized collections, it's a library building or the library logo. And then information about the collection. So here's one that actually has a digitized collection. So you see that you can link out to the website for the digitized collections and you can review their collections in the Digital Library of Georgia. So you can actually see all the things that are digitized all in one place. Here's their newspaper collection that they did a number of years ago and put online.
If they have,
Let me click on assets because they'll have something.
yeah. If there is a finding aid available, you click there, it takes you directly to the repository.
So you can explore. So if you're just looking for a specific county or when a specific library has stuff, you can kind of browse that way and take a look and move around and kind of see collections from hopefully a quicker way. And I know for us, it's really mainly about kind of focusing and putting things together and kind of understanding where everything is.
Yes, yeah.
Go back over to the slides. I'm trying to remember. I think we had a couple of memory lab slides we talked about. And so we already showed you sort of the dashboard. A couple of other notes just to remind everybody about resources that are available. So your library, of course, there's Ancestry Library Edition. That's available on site at all Georgia public libraries. You can bring your own laptop, but you have to be on their network and on their internet to use Ancestry Library Edition. New this year is MyHeritage. All you need is a library login from your local library and log into Galileo via your library login, and you can use MyHeritage from home and use all those resources that are available for that. Then, of course, we always like to really emphasize that there's a lot of great stuff in the Digital Library of Georgia. It's the same as kind of our finding aid. Some of them will have family names connected with it, but again, describing materials is always an ongoing process. So as we learn, there might be an association with one name. We can always go back in and add that name in and add it as a subject heading.
What if you don't have? Do you have to have a specific library or something?
I mean, you don't have to have a specific library. I would encourage you to go to the one that's closest to you in your local library. And you can also sign up for kind of a virtual Pines card online. And so you can get a Pines login online right now from your phone because there's a Pines app you can download and you can sign up for Pines. So you can do that. But I do encourage you to go to your, my library card here.
And ask them for the login information for MyHeritage if you have a library card.
So you will not need a library card. So most of the libraries use, not to get super technical, but whatever your login to get into your library account, that will be your login to go to Galileo. So actually you can just search for Galileo. It'll ask you to find your library. You'll click public libraries. You'll search for your local library. It'll send you to a login screen. You'll log in and you'll be able to get to MyHeritage from that.
Okay.
I work for the library, so do it. There's a lot of resources.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
And we can't pitch all the books like Hoopla, Palace Project, Libby. I read National Geographic on my phone the other day just because I could, and it was free.
Re-up your library's card.
Yeah, we can send it to you.
Yeah. Just lost.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's really easy to do.
I did it over the phone yesterday. Mine had run out while I actually had a book on reserve.
and I just called the library and they just fixed it.
And there's oftentimes staff there that are willing to help you do some research, especially, actually scroll back real quick. Those 79 libraries that have special collections, those are going to be the ones that are going to have staff or at least somebody who can have a conversation with you about doing genealogy or family research. Because they're the ones who've dedicated space and they've dedicated, part of their resources to trying to manage those collections. So those are really good libraries to start from if you're wanting to have that kind of conversation.
Do you all have partnerships with other state libraries, like neighboring libraries like Alabama or the Carolinas or Mississippi?
Not officially. I mean, again, any good, person you're talking about reference who's done some research and it can kind of help you navigate some of those and help you think through some of the ways to ask questions and to look at some of those resources as well. Yeah. Questions? Actually, let's jump back over to the dashboard. I do want to talk about memory labs. I thought I had a slide about memory labs, but apparently I didn't. So one other thing too, we're sort of mentioning as part of sort of Georgia Treasures, because not only do libraries have Georgia Treasures and communities have Georgia Treasures and special collections, you have them. And so one of the ways we want to help encourage everybody to take care of their own treasures is to, if they have the opportunity or want the opportunity to go digitize them themselves. And so eventually this will have a listing of the 15 libraries that have what we like to call memory labs. So these are, they can be a room, they can be a space, but basically they're a place where you can go and use equipment to transfer analog materials. So photographs, occasional negatives, maybe tapes, of the various types. Sometimes not too many of our libraries have anything to do work with like older digital formats, but some memory labs do, where you can convert that from one format to a better, more usable digital format. And so many of our libraries are jumping on to this and providing equipment to the public to be able to do a lot of this work yourself. Two instances are kind of one of our, I don't want to call them our shining stars because I'm leaving out Henry County because Henry County just got a memory lab themselves, but Cobb County, the Schweitzer Library, and then the Washington Memorial Library in Macon. Actually, probably the Washington Library has the biggest one, and they just got a pretty sizable grant to upgrade and expand their memory labs. They're probably one of the big ones in the state.
If you have some of those devices yourself, can you take them to the library and have them show you?
Depends on.
If this is a means of putting your information, historical information, into the library system.
So we wouldn't necessarily go in the library system. There is the possibility the library might run a program where they're looking for certain things and they might allow you to submit stuff. But this is really for you to take your stuff and make it digital. Sometimes they'll have staff managing the spaces and helping you. Sometimes it's on your own kind of situation with guides and resources to help you work through it.
And I know Cobb County, because that's my local library, they do programming related to those different things that they have as well, so that a big group can come and learn how to do it and then have access to it. So
that was going to be my question. Do you have to be a member of the Cobb County library system to go do that?
No.
And take it? Okay.
We've never seen any library limit just to their own library users.
they want you to come use their stuff.
I should mention too, not only do libraries have this type of equipment, a lot of them are building like maker spaces.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I kind of want to go over to one of the Gwinnett libraries because they have a serger, and I really I don't want to spend money on a sewing machine that's kind of specialized sewing machine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to go over there and borrow their serger because I don't want to spend $800 on a serger, kind of not that expensive, but yeah.
Okay.
They have like 3D printers that you can use, and they have a lot of cool stuff.
So the nearest one, like for here, if you do here, would be Cobb.
I would say Henry County.
Which-
Again, I haven't added. We just finished our survey a couple of days ago for around the state, but the closest one I think to here would be the Henry County. I can't remember which branch it's in. Yeah.
You know which one. Okay.
Like-
You don't have one?
Fulton doesn't seem to have one. They didn't respond to the survey. I do know they're doing kind of a community program on the 20th at the Central Library because they have borrowed one of our DigiKits and are doing some community kind of things. So I can also say sometimes they will do special programming and they'll borrow our kits because I've been advocating them to use our kits like this for like community scanning projects as well, or to even like personal scanning projects for community members too. So.
Mhm.
So to get into the Galileo, was it logging into Galileo you guys were talking about, that there's all these resources? How do you get into that again to see that?
So
So actually, what you probably for for Galileo, we could just probably do it right here.
Because when I go to Galileo, it's asking me if I'm a UGA student or a community.
So probably one of the weirdnesses is that, so we are on the Georgia Archives internet right now. And so it's going to think you are a part of a UGA or one of the Georgia systems. So if you were at home,
Okay.
I don't think there's a link to MyHeritage on there because there's not really a direct MyHeritage link.
To Galileo.
Yeah, so there's a guy. So if you go to the main Galileo page, which is galileo.usg.edu, and you'll start off on this page right here. You can click public libraries, and then you want to search for your public library.
Which one are you trying to find?
The, Fulton County Library.
I literally just signed in downstairs
Okay.
on my work laptop to the Fulton County Resources.
Yeah.
And so you just need your library card and your PIN number.
Okay.
Well, I guess I did.
And it doesn't, do you have to pick a specific branch? I guess you would.
Not when you're on Galileo, you don't have to pick a
Okay.
specific bridge.
Now it's giving me every library in Fulton County. But that's fine.
The memory lab for Henry County is at the McDonough
Thank you.
Library.
That makes sense.
So once you can get to that login screen, then you will be brought up to the screen. You can decide what level of access you want to get to. I will notice, boom, there is what they call bento boxes right there. So it's right available for you to click on once you get logged in.
Here's history.
Yeah.
Mango is really cool. Unrelated to what we were talking about, but really cool.
So Mango teaches you how to, so instead of paying for one of the language learning services, you can get it for free through your
So
heart.
the ancestry, which is, you can get that free going through Galileo.
You have to be on site
In the
at the
library.
library. You,
But not MyHeritage.
but not MyHeritage, so you can.
But you can't make a tree on.
Yeah, it's a library edition, so.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Be careful.
I think I just made your thing.
Oh,
That's okay. I'm sorry.
that's all right.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but my
So
password.
your password's up practice.
Be that you
I'm trying to figure out what the right password is.
Yeah, I understand.
You can actually go there and like, I've got my dad's.
I don't know how to get there.
What are you trying to get to?
Just like the.
Oh, yeah, you really need.
I love.
They have a VH converter at
forever.
at the Washington Memorial. I know that, where you can convert it into a flash drive.
All the Washington.
I've never heard of it.
Plus, it's a memorial. Muriel? Muriel. Yeah, she's the one talking about who would be like, oh yeah, it's the blue book on that shelf. Yeah. But it's not there because I'm having it.
Never get it on a website. I just.
Yeah.
used it for that app. Yeah.
For the,
Did you give her?
That's the same product.
Should.
Like the light.
No, it's for a fair limited, so it's
from
got.
the,
Is it up there?
yes, it's from the.
So once you, sorry, once you got.
What is it? Yeah.
Just click full.
Yeah, that has all the libraries listed.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Maybe, that's what you think.
This one's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, when you click.
Okay, what's the-
Then the resource you see a little bit.
Libby.
Thank you.
So that's good.
You know? Good question.
Because I'm driving, I like somebody to read.
Yeah.
Libby, I like it when I read, when I drive.
Libby has audiobooks too. Yeah.
It's a all time.
Yeah, I think so.
I
Yeah.
would recommend downloading the password.
That's what, yeah, we were just.
Okay, that's about it.
Yeah.
So the Palace project kind of has less holes than Libby. It might not, at some point,
So-
Libby stuff, you have to use stuff that goes out. Sometimes you can get the stuff a lot faster.
Okay, so you set fast on the break.
Oh,
Oh, excellent. Because sometimes on Libby, I'm waiting months.
Palace project, we love it, but
Wonderful, especially some of the new stuff.
I'm trying to figure out, but I don't.
I think you just have to have that on your phone and just do log in.
They have the, they have the VHS.
you don't survive.
this is the one that tried.
In Macon.
It should be, it's been.
So you can just go to their website, look through everything. I'm sure
they're
they
wonderful.
have the same.
So any questions? I mean, we can't necessarily answer all the things about like digital resources for books and stuff.
Yeah.
It's about.
Well, your librarians.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, Lillian.
Yes, the archives are in.
Oh, is that just gonna be with the public libraries?
No,
For now, we feel like we want to limit it to just public libraries because
which is the Savannah area.
I'm not sure we can go further afield than that.
This is all still open regardless of.
This is all for, yes.
Just one.
Be surprised. Things that we can find.
Thanks, yes,
Thank
you.
you.
That's amazing. I will mention too, there's some flyers, sheets of paper, that we need to get printed a little more substantially, but they have a QR code that takes you again to the Finding Aid website.
Mhm.
And then it has both of our contact information, and on the back is kind of a list of the things we want to ASDI can do, for libraries, and then our cards are both over there as well,
Yeah.
so. If there's no.
Is this conversion onto their, using their equipment? Where does that information go to? Does it go into something that you bring to them or they already have?
So-
Yes, I suspect the library gets a copy of it because of that.
Not necessary. So it's really just for, so we have had conversations about doing projects where community members can scan, they'll get a copy of a scan and it gets submitted for potentially going to the Digital Labs of Georgia. But really, when you're using the memory labs, you're just going and getting your own copy of your own stuff. And then
Yeah.
there's no obligation to leave the library a copy.
Yeah. Yeah, our biggest goal is to keep the collections in the communities that they are relevant to, whatever that needs to look like for that community.
Communities are in other states. Does it still matter?
I mean,
Like Dad was in Virginia or Tennessee and things like that. I'm from way back. I'm the only Georgia connection.
yeah, so when we're doing like digitization project for the library, we're really focusing on Georgia exclusive projects because our area is Georgia. That is who we support. That is how we look at it and analyze something for whether or not we're gonna, work on it that year. Now, if you bring your dad's stuff to Georgia,
Is it in Georgia?
yeah, well, if you're bringing your dad's stuff to Georgia, you could still go to a memory lab and scan all
Yeah,
your stuff.
yeah.
There is no limited to that. It's just
That's what I'm talking
that we're probably not going to focus on bringing those kind of materials into like the DLG or that kind of instance. That would be something that would probably be better for
Yeah.
Virginia. Their
about.
library.
Or even if it's, for example, he was a young lieutenant in the army. He was going, I think I have something from him, but he was coming from Fort Hood, Texas, going back to Virginia in the 50s and, helped me about his trip because he couldn't stay anywhere. So he and a buddy wore their uniform in their cars and traveled to the deep south, going back to Virginia.
Yeah.
I assume that would be good for any. I'm sure it's like past through Georgia, getting to Virginia, but
It's possible that we could think of something that might be a better project to work through the Auburn Avenue Research Library.
do they have a memory?
They do not have a memory lab. I don't believe they do.
But I could use any other memory, like the Henry County.
Yeah, you could
Right.
you could scan as much as you want.
Because it doesn't matter to me which one it would go into, if it goes in Auburn or the Henry County lab. I think anybody, like a young person who's studying that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely worth reaching out to them and asking if they would be interested in something like that. Because we don't make those final decisions for the libraries about the collections that they bring in. We can help them create a collection policy that helps them define what they want to take, because a lot of them, unfortunately, like I said, have just been, here you go, here you go, here you go. And they've not felt like they could say no to things because they didn't want to disrupt relationships that exist, understandably. So they each have the final call on what they take in.